Achane and Christian McCaffrey are two early round landmines that you must avoid.
Dominate your draft and win your league. This is Locked On Fantasy Football with Fabs and Marcus. Fabs brings the expertise, Marcus brings the fire. Together, they'll lead you to the championship. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. I'm your host, Marcus Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Michael Fabiano, the Fantasy Football Hall of Famer. And it's a Wednesday show, so of course, Matt Williamson is here. We are talking about 6 players that you need to be avoiding in the early parts of your redraft leagues. We'll talk about a quarterback that's going way too high, a couple young running backs that we are avoiding. But, Matt, I want to start with you because you are kind of out on Achane, at least at his current ADP. Why is that the case?
Yeah, I have him as running back 10 right now behind guys like Genty, Hampton, Walker, and subject to change. You know, I'm fiddling with my lists and moving things around a lot this time of year. That being said, I'm a bit of a sizeist, and I love the player. I think he's going to get a massive workload. I think he'll catch a lot of balls, which is great. I think they'll be losing late in games and dumping it down to him. But I also think Willis is going to run a ton, and I'm drafting him every chance I possibly can get. And frankly, I just don't think Achane's going to hold up. I mean, it really comes down to that he's too small for what his workload forecasts for me to really feel comfortable making him my second-round pick.
What do you think, Fabs?
Well, he's getting 40 touches a game, man. What are you talking about?
So we just heard, apparently.
Didn't you hear about that yesterday?
Well, I can promise you this. If he's getting 40 touches in a game, you will not have him for your fantasy football playoff. So that's the
trade him by week 3. Yeah.
It reminds me of when the Bills had come out and said that CJ Spiller is going to touch the ball so much that he's going to throw up. And the only people that threw up were the fantasy managers who drafted CJ Spiller that year because he was terrible. So yeah, I got to be honest with you. I'm not as worried about Achane as everybody else is because you can post good numbers on a bad team. I mean, it happens all the time. So he's going to get plenty of opportunities, not 40 a game. But I'm not really that concerned about him. Really, the only concern is, can he avoid injuries? Which for the most part he's done, right, at the NFL level. So, and also, like, I'm in drafts where, like, he's the second round pick of someone's fantasy team, and I'm thinking that's a steal, like second round for Devon. So I'm not out on him, especially if people are so afraid that he's fallen into round 2.
Can I give you my irrational fear with Achane? And maybe it's not even irrational because we see this happen every year. I think the Dolphins are going to be pretty bad. I mean, our guys at FanDuel have them as one of the worst projected win totals in the year or for the season. My fear is, Matt, that we get to December 13th, right? Which I think is like week 15. And the Dolphins are like, we've already put 300 touches on them. We've got 2 wins. Let's shut him down. Make sure that he's healthy for the 2027 season. We'll run Ollie Gordon. We'll run Jalen Wright a little bit. Yep. And this doesn't mean that he's banged up, but it's, hey, let's protect our asset because we know we want him here for the long haul. And maybe he's a guy that just doesn't do a lot for you late in the season.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And the one thing I'd even take it a step further that I'll contradict you a little bit on is if you get to week 13, he's going to be banged up. I mean, every running back is. So why not shut him down when you're 1-11? I mean, I think they're going to be that bad.
There's a lot of times when we get to December or like middle of December, teams start making business decisions, right? And again, I think that would be smart of Miami. Like I'm not criticizing them at all. Like if we get to that point in the season, I think from like an asset management standpoint, it would make sense to do that. And I have a really hard time drafting players who I know are going to be on really bad teams and really bad offenses. And even at the turn in the second round, I feel like it's a little rich for me.
Agreed. I just have a real hard time believing I'm going to get a full season out of him at peak performance.
Fabs, who is the running back that you are avoiding in early rounds of your drafts?
I'm gonna do like the Yankees and just kind of run it back from last year when I was completely wrong. And I'm still gonna say Christian McCaffrey. And once again, he was my biggest whiff of last year. But it is just every trend, every stat scares me about McCaffrey. 450 touches last year. That's a ton. And we're talking about regular season and postseason. He's 30. He's played back-to-back full seasons once since 2020. Just 2 of the past 13 running backs who led the NFL in touches finished in the top 12 the following year. McCaffrey is one of only 3 running backs age 29 or older with 400 plus touches in a single season. The other 2 were Tiki Barber, who actually wasn't bad the following year, but he still saw, I think, a 2 or 3 point per game drop, and then Curtis Martin, who fell off a cliff. When you're spending a top, and right now, I mean, he's getting picked in the top 8. When you're spending an early first round pick on a player who's 30, who's coming off 450 touches, who averaged 3.9 yards per rush last year, who has been prone to injuries for a decent part of his career, and who, oh, by the way, popped up yesterday in the news with having some sort of muscle tightness. I guess it's par for the course because all the 49ers are hurt right now. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna run it back. I am scared of Christian McCaffrey this year again, and maybe to my detriment, because it was last year. I didn't want him in the first round last year. I didn't get him in the first round last year, and I would have been thrilled if I did. Hindsight 2020, right? But I'm just not comfortable. You guys talk about, Achane playing a full season. I'm not comfortable with McCaffrey's projected game started this year. I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm worried that everybody in San Francisco is getting hurt. I'm worried that offense could be a disaster in the second half of the year if guys don't get healthy.
So right now over on Football Guys, the consensus ADP has Christian McCaffrey as 6 overall, RB3. I find it fascinating that someone like Jonathan Taylor is going 2 spots later, considering how much younger he is. But Matt, would you be willing to pay that 6th or 7th overall price for McCaffrey?
No. And coincidentally, Peacock and I, who host Locked On Niners, did a Niner breakdown, and we went pretty in depth on this. And we both agreed that McCaffrey's burst was not what it used to be. And if you really look at his yards per carry, it was really, really down. And it wasn't necessarily because of poor blocking. He just didn't make people miss or take things to the distance like he used to. Now, I'm sure he'll catch a ton of passes and he'll get in the end zone because he's an all-time great fantasy producer. But for the cost, it really worries me. And I'm curious, Fabs. I'm sure you have Gibbs and Robinson ahead of him. I have Taylor ahead of him. But he is my running back 4, but that doesn't mean I'd pull the trigger on him.
Yeah, I have him at 3. And I agree with you. I don't know that I'd pull the trigger. Now, I'm in so many flipping leagues that chances are I'm probably going to get him in 1 or 2, because last year I was very much against drafting him or Saquon Barkley in the first round. You win some,
you're
you lose
half
some.
right.
Yeah, I was half right. But and the thing that scares me too, Matt, is that I have no idea who his handcuff is, because both of the guys who are supposed to be his handcuff have been banged up. And so that's another thing where I'll just draft his handcuff. It's the Niners offense, and I'll get maybe RB2 numbers from that guy. I don't know who that guy is right now. So
the other part of it, Fabs, for me is when I'm in that 6th spot and it's Gibbs, Bijan are gone, Chase, Puka, JSN, I just have a really hard time passing up Amon-Ra St. Brown, anywhere in the middle.
Yeah, because he's just right. He's so consistent,
and he's so much younger. But I'm not totally out on Christian McCaffrey. If he was going in the 9, 10, 11 range, I think I would be completely on board. 6 just feels way too high.
Yeah, maybe we get some quote bad news between now and the stiffness keeps up and scares people to get him a 10. Cool. But at 5 or 6,
it's a little rich. Let's talk about Josh Allen, who is the first quarterback off the board this year. Should you be fading him? We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by Square, behind so many of the local businesses that people visit every day, a platform designed to help businesses sell, manage, and grow. Whether it's a neighborhood coffee shop, a packed sports bar on a game day, or your favorite restaurant, Square brings payments, banking, and more together in one connected system. It helps business owners spend less time managing technology and more time focusing on their customers. Square isn't just a payment processor, it's a complete business platform built to simplify the day-to-day. I know for me, there's this coffee shop that I go to every single morning where the line is always out the door, but somehow it never feels slow. I'm in and out of minutes. My receipt is mailed to my email, and I can just use their rewards without even thinking about it. It just feels smooth every single time. And yes, I'm sure you can tell they've got Square running everything behind the scenes. So if you're starting a business or running one that just deserves better tools, Square helps you sell, manage, and grow without slowing down. Right now, you can get up to $200 off Square hardware at square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. That's square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. Run your business smarter with Square and get started today. Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We are discussing the 6 players that you need to be avoiding in your early rounds of your redraft. And Fabs, I want to start with you because you are not a believer in drafting a quarterback early in your drafts. Josh Allen is QB1 by a good bit this year. He's going at 27th overall, so just at the top of round 3. Why are you out?
I love Josh Allen. I think he's a great player. He's going to go down in history as one of the best quarterbacks in not only NFL history statistically, but also fantasy football history. I mean, he's already up there with the greats. I've just never been a guy who wants to take a quarterback that early because I'm going to lose a really good wide receiver or a really good running back because I took Josh Allen in round 2 or 3. And I'm just not willing to do that, especially this is, of course, in one quarterback leagues. If we're talking about Superflex, he's the number 1 overall pick, and there's no question about it. But, guys, every year, a quarterback busts out, and sometimes multiple, who were just not even thought of as being potential top 5 quarterbacks, who come out and go nuts, and they become massive bargains. Last year, Drake May, his ADP is 113. He finishes the QB2. Matthew Stafford last year, his ADP was 164. He was the QB3. Trevor Lawrence, 131.6 ADP. He was the QB4. Caleb Williams had an ADP of 112. He was the QB5. Do you understand what I'm talking about here? Do you get it, kids? I mean, you can wait on quarterbacks. And would I rather get a Lawrence, a Williams, a Stafford, a Drake May? I'm not talking about this year because those potential breakout players have changed. Would I rather have one of those guys late in my draft than take Josh Allen in the 2nd or 3rd round? Yeah, absolutely, man. Because I just don't, when we talk about like the onesie positions, I just don't think there's like this huge, like, I need to get one of these guys. I need to get one of these guys. There was a time a few years ago where people were like, I need to get one of the top quarterbacks because look what happened the previous year. And then that didn't really pan out. I've never really, outside of maybe 1 or 2 seasons in my time as a fantasy football fanatic, gone early quarterbacks or quarterback in a traditional league. And I'm not doing it this year. I'd rather have Dak Prescott in round 8 than Josh Allen in round 2 or 3.
Matt,
and there's plenty of quarterbacks that I'd rather have than Josh Allen. Not because I'd rather have those quarterbacks,
but based on their
in
price.
a vacuum, but I'd rather have them based on where I can draft them.
Yes. Now, I always use this example when I throw my buddy under the bus. I've been in this league for 35 years. We started it in high school, and my buddy Sab's version of preparing for the draft is picking up a magazine probably on the way to Deep Creek and about 10 minutes before the draft saying, hey, Matt, who's hurt and what do you think? And I give him a little bit of advice. And every year I tell him, Sab, draft Josh Allen as early as you possibly can, and you might be in this thing because I know you're not going to maintain your team throughout the course of the year, and you'll at least get guaranteed points every year. But unless you're that guy, I'm not touching Josh Allen at the price because I agree with everything Fab said. but I'm going to end up with like Kyler Murray or Shuck or Willis. I'm going to be by far the last guy drafting a quarterback in my league. And it might be round 10 and 11.
Bo Nix
Exactly.
is ADP.
There's so many.
He's the QB 15. This kid's been the QB 7 2 years in a row. He's only 2 years in the league. There's just too much value late.
Yeah, there's too many good ones.
So I actually have a different opinion on this one, Matt, a little bit, because the way that I play these fantasy leagues is I think Josh Allen and like Brock Bowers and Colston Loveland this year are going to give you such an advantage over the average starting tight end and quarterback that I do think those guys are valuable. And this is going to sound really bad, but I also play fantasy football a little arrogantly, if that's a word. I can find running backs and wide receivers throughout the year. I'm never going to find a Josh Allen that's going to throw for 4,500 yards and rush for 12 touchdowns. I'm not going to find a tight end on the waiver wire that's capable of catching 115 passes like Brock Bowers is. But I can find the next Javonte Williams in free agency or through a trade or late in my drafts. And I think when quarterbacks used to go like late round 1 or middle of round 2, like I think that's where I was completely out. But Josh Allen's going like where Chris Olave and Zay Flowers are going. And that's like, I like those players, but Josh Allen is going to give you a bigger weekly point differential than those guys will. I think his ADP is fine. I'm not saying you must draft him, but I don't think it's outrageous.
We've all been in these shoes too. Like you got a nice lead going into Monday Night Football. You don't have anybody else left playing in that game, and your opponent has Josh Allen. And even though you're up 40, you're terrified. Yes. I mean, that is a nice feeling having that type of quarterback. And I know we're not chatting dynasty, but I have a dynasty league where I have Bowers and Allen. For 10 years, I can't believe that I'm not going to be at the top of the league because I'll find running backs and wide receivers and rookie drafts. You know what I mean?
And it's a little easier in dynasty to do that than redraft because you have more time. But
see, I'm on the other side. I think it's way easier to find a quarterback who can push into the top 5 than it is to find the next Javonte Williams. Running backs are hard to find.
I think
I will tell you this. Yeah. I mean, more than half of the backfields in the NFL right now are up for grabs in terms of who's going to score the most fantasy points.
But that's why I think there's more opportunities to find value at.
But I mean, those players are not going to give you weekly, consistent, strong numbers like a quarterback who busts out can. I mean,
it's true.
I gave you 5 examples last year at quarterback. There's only 32 starters in the league. How many running backs last year were you able to find, beyond Javonte Williams, that were like wicked, consistent, reliable on a weekly basis? Like, who? I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of one. It's a harder position, and guys get hurt. And then what happens when guys get hurt? Teams typically will, go to a committee situation, and then it's a complete disaster. You and I, Marcus, have talked about how many backfields this year are going to be 1-2 punches. And it's like, we don't know who's going to be the guy from one week to the next. And oh, by the way, we're going to talk about the Chargers backfield and how Mike McDaniel scared the living hell out of every single fantasy manager who's got Omarion Hampton.
I'm paying up for tight ends. I'm not paying up for quarterbacks this year.
I'm not paying up for almost any other quarterback outside of Josh Allen. I do agree with you though, Fabs. Like, I'm not drafting Lamar Jackson or Drake May or Jalen Hurts at ADP. Like I'm fine waiting on those guys. Allen is the one that's just so consistent. Like, I would be shocked if he's not a top 3 quarterback, but that's for a different day. Let's run through some more players that you should be avoiding in the early rounds of your redraft leagues. We'll get to AJ Brown and more next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. You just make your free pick on who you think will hit a homer in their next game. And if you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every single day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every day of games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on the matchups across the league. every game has someone, sometimes like 4 players, who are capable of going deep. And now you get the chance to make your prediction before the first pitch. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all of the action at FanDuel.com. It's a great way to get through the summer. Again, we've got games every single day. It makes baseball season so much fun. Go to FanDuel.com to play daily dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer this MLB season. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. Welcome back to the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. We are discussing 6 players that you need to be avoiding in your drafts. Matt, I've got 2, but I know you've got one more. Talk to me about A.J. Brown.
He's absolutely one of my favorite players at this position over the last 5 years. Big, rugged, take it to the house, deep dig, shrug off a defensive back, and, run over somebody, deep ball player. But he's my wide receiver 18. I am totally out on him. I have him behind Ibuka, McConkey, T. Higgins, Waddle, guys of that nature. And I understand that the situation in Philly was bad last year and the system was bad, and I don't love the quarterback. But I thought his tape looked like a player that is reaching the end sooner than later. And he's a big-bodied dude that's had a lot of lower body issues, and he puts a lot of stress on his knees and ankles at his weight and his style of play. And I don't think he's moving like he used to. I hope I'm wrong, but it'll be on someone else's fantasy team.
Fabs, what do you think?
I've got him in my top 12. I think he's, probably going to get drafted as a low wide receiver 1, maybe a high wide receiver 2 at worst. The landing spot, I like Drake May. Marcus, you've talked about Drake May and how he's a really good fit for what A.J. Brown's going to do. He's obviously very familiar with Mike Vrabel. So the injury concern may be the only concern I have about A.J. Brown. So I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I have no problem drafting A.J. Brown based on where he's being picked on ADP. Once again, probably a second-round pick in most leagues. I also feel like he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder after all the stuff that went on in Philadelphia, and he wants to come out and prove that not only is he a good teammate, but he's one hell of a player. So I think there's a little motivation for A.J. Brown as well.
I'm kind of in between because I could also see the Patriots not resting him, but having these games where it's Romeo Doubs that gets a lot of the targets. And it's Hunter Henry that's, the focal point of the passing game. And basically with the idea of let's just keep him fresh for December and January, because that's when we're really going to need him. They've done a good job of adding receivers to this passing game. And I also think Mike Vrabel is going to want to play a little bit slower this year, lean on their defense. I think he's a fine late second, early third round pick, but Fabs, it sounds like you have him just at the tail end of round 1. Is that right?
No, round 2.
Sorry, he's your 12th receiver, not your 12th.
Right, he's my 12th receiver.
Okay. Yeah.
Just what if I said this, guys?
Well, hold on. I'm glad that you clarified that, because now on Football Guys, the consensus ADP has A.J. Brown as wide receiver 8th. So you're even lower than what the consensus is.
Yeah. What if I said this, guys? You know how things are crazy in the NFL? Teams make the playoffs one year, Super Bowl, and then they don't get back. What if I told you that I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots weren't a playoff team this year?
Oh, I could come up with 7 teams in the AFC I might put ahead of them. I don't think that's crazy.
The only issue is that they've got the Jets and Dolphins in their division. So just give you
I get it.
wins right
I get
there.
it. We're talking about the whole conference here.
It's true. I wouldn't be shocked.
So I think that trying to think outside of the box, I've already said I think Drake May is going to see some regression. I still think A.J. Brown's going to be very good, but I don't necessarily know if the Patriots will be in a position to want to save A.J. Brown for December. They may be fighting for a playoff spot.
They might be. I've got 2 that I want to just say quickly, and Matt, I would love to hear your thoughts. Omarion Hampton, who is going at 14th overall, so at the top of round 2, RB8. Mike McDaniel, and Fabs, I'd love to have you kind of paraphrase this here, but what did Mike McDaniel say about the running backs, I believe, 2 days ago?
I actually have the quote. Bad news, fantasy owners. Good news is I see all 3 of those guys producing at a very high level. He's talking about Hampton, Keaton Mitchell, and of course, Vidal Sassoon, our pal. Bad news is I can't tell you which games those are. Vidal Sassoon is Kamani Vidal, for those of you who don't know or listen to the podcast. I would say this. There's no way that all three of those guys are going to be producing at a very high level.
No.
Every single week. Omarion Hampton is a first-round guy. They're going to give him every opportunity to lead this backfield. Was Vidal good last year? Sure. Keaton Mitchell's explosive and dynamic. Can he stay healthy? I don't know. He hadn't played a lot of games in the NFL. If he can, that could be a strike against Omarion Hampton's breakout ability. And I will also say this, guys. Opinions change. I've had a couple of running backs who I was kind of high on going into July that I'm kind of cooling off on a little bit. And Omarion Hampton might be one of them. Because he's going to cost you. He's going to cost you a first or second round pick.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Matt, what do you think?
I'm playing a little scared here, but I don't love to hear those quotes.
I don't either. Mitchell doesn't worry me. I think he's a satellite back all day long.
And he's just always hurt, right?
Yeah, he gets 8 touches a game at most, and 3 of them are receptions on 3rd and long. So he doesn't worry me. I'm not paying early second-round prices on Hampton. Now, the thing that Coach McDaniel doesn't mention is the head coach and the staff that drafted Hampton must like him still. They gave a first-round pick just a year ago to secure his services. But as you notice, I often go back to tape, and I don't think he's a real natural runner. I think he's a big, strong, fast guy, but he misses holes, and he's. And
I don't know that he's a wide zone runner. That's
my worry too. Patient and hit the hole, and see the right spot. So I don't know that he's a great player.
Oh man, this is gonna be. I don't want this to get aggregated or anything, but I could see him being a guy that gets traded early on in the season. Somebody gives up a second-round pick, and it's like, you know what? Let's put him in
Hampton.
Well, I could just see it being let's put him in our gap scheme. He's not a great fit for the Chargers. Wide
sounds
zone.
like an off-season or next year thing, though.
It's possible.
Yeah.
One more guy that I want to mention, and this one hurts. Rashee Rice, who is going at 25th overall, who is, whenever he's out in the field, he's super, super productive. I've been a champion of his for a while in fantasy leagues, and there's just no way, Matt, that I would pay that price.
No, I don't trust him off the field at all, but that's small potatoes. He's really bad against man coverage, and I think the Chiefs are going to see a ton of it because they have no man beaters. I don't see anyone else to really deflect a lot of attention from Rice in terms of coverage. He's okay, but him and Brown were my 2 receivers that were jumping out at me at cost won't be on my team.
What do you think, Fabs?
He's one of the biggest risk-reward players in fantasy football this year because the risk is knucklehead injured. The reward is maybe a top 8 wide receiver in fantasy. So it really depends on.
I'm just worried about Fabs. From all the videos we've seen at camp.
Yeah, he's a little slow.
He can't move. He looks like Juju Smith-Schuster, who was there, a couple years ago. Honestly, that's what it looked like.
That's not something you want said about you if you're a young wide receiver. This was a guy coming out of SMU that was like a crazy athlete, not fast, but just explosive and had this great vertical. He looks like a shell of himself right now. And maybe that'll be different in a month from now, 2 months from now. But I don't think I can pay top of the 3rd round prices for him.
Maybe rehabbing a knee injury from prison isn't great for your explosiveness.
It's possible. Right now, I mean, he's over at Football Guys. I mean, he's a low wideout 1, man. He's going at number 11 among wide receivers at 25th overall.
It's like Malik Neighbors is going at wide receiver 14. And it's like I've seen Neighbors move around camp, and he just looks so much healthier than Rashee Rice. And that's what
ain't that crazy?
It has me absolutely terrified. All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. With training camps here and moves being made across the NFL, host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow Matt on Twitter at Williamson NFL. You can follow Fabs at Michael_Fabiano. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. You
guys have an awesome guest coming tomorrow, by the way.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. Adam Schefter will be on the show tomorrow to talk about all of the fun stuff going around the NFL, some injury updates, some suspension news. Make sure you check it out. I'm glad you reminded me because I forgot. That'll be on Thursday's show. We'll see you guys then.